Hello viewers, in this video we are going to talk about dielectrics, some fundamental definitions of dielectrics, and then we'll proceed until the Clausius-Mosotty relation and also the Lorentz electric field. Of course, they will be dealt in different video. First, today we'll try to learn what are the basic definitions of electric field and other parameters. Let's start with the first one, dielectric. What is dielectric? Dielectric is an electrically insulating material which has the ability to get electrically polarized upon the application of some external electric field. So a dielectric is any insulating material which becomes electrically polarized. That is, if you take a slab of a dielectric, this dielectric can be a glass, it can be even rubber or even paper, plastic, and several others. So even mica is an example of a dielectric. So these are the dielectric insulating materials, and when this dielectric slab is subjected to external electric field, this dielectric shows some polarization. It means initially before the application of field, here there is no net charge, but after the application of this electric field, a net negative charge will appear over here on one side, a net positive charge will appear over here on the other side. So this process of inducing electric dipoles inside a neutral dielectric is called as dielectric polarization. So dielectrics are polarizable, but basically they are electrically insulating materials. They do not conduct electricity, but they can be electrically polarized. So basically they are electrical insulators. This is the first thing about dielectric. These are some of the examples. Now let's come to the other thing, that is some fundamentals of electrostatics, electric field or intensity of electric field. This is what you denote it with vector E. It is already known to us. Actually, it comes from the Coulomb's law. When you have two charges, Q1 and Q2, separated by a distance of r units, then the force of attraction or repulsion between them is given by F equal to Q1 Q2 by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square, where epsilon naught is the free space permittivity, which is the permittivity of free space. So in this, the value is 8.85 into 10 power minus 12 farad per meter. So based on this, one can define this as Q2 times E1. What is this E1? Here E1 is given by Q1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. What is this E1? This E1 is called intensity of electric field due to charge Q1 at the location of this Q2. What I mean here is this charge Q1 is producing some electric field at this location, and because of that electric field produced by this, Q2 is going to experience some force. So that force F is Q times the electric field at that location. Here the charge is Q2 and the electric field at that location E1, because it is due to the charge 1, is given by E1 is equal to Q1 by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. You can equally write this in another way by saying this as Q1 times E2 with E2 given as Q2 by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. So it is symmetric. So you can think of the same situation in a different way, where Q2 is producing electric field at the location of Q1, and this electric field is causing a force on Q1 given by the same F is equal to Q1 E2. So force is same Q2 E1 or Q1 E2, right? So this is actually coming from the Coulomb's law. So the concept of electric field or the intensity of electric field comes from the Coulomb's law, right? So if you have a point charge Q, then due to that Q, the electric field at a distance r units away from this charge is given by E is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. Okay, if you want, you can copy by pausing the video. I'll proceed further. I'll erase this. Okay, so we define electric field now as electric field E is equal to Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square times r cap. Of course, E is a vector. So magnitude is this due to a charge here. So if you have a point charge Q, then at a distance of r units from this, of course, you call it as vector r, the electric field E is given by this formula. R cap is the unit vector along the direction of this R. So this is the definition of electric field due to a point charge. Now we define another parameter, electric displacement. Of course, it is also for the same point charge, electric displacement. So this electric displacement or electric flux density, both are one and the same, electric displacement or electric flux density, it is denoted with vector D. So due to a point charge, this D is defined as the Q divided by 4 pi r square, of course r cap. So the difference between this and this is just the epsilon naught in the denominator. So this is also equivalent to E divided by epsilon naught. Here I denote this E as E vacuum. Why? Because there is no medium in the middle, it's an empty space. So only in empty space this relation is valid. Whereas if you take a medium in the middle, this E vacuum, I mean E medium won't hold. Only E vacuum holds this relation. So this is regarding electric displacement D, electric field intensity E due to a point charge. In electrostatics, not only point charges, we also deal with sheet of charges. For example, if you have a parallel plate capacitor, this parallel plate capacitor is composed of two metal plates of equal area. So plate area I'll take as capital A, and they are separated by distance of small d. Of course, both plates are identical in dimensions, metal plates both are. So due to a parallel plate capacitor, at any point in between the plates, electric field can be defined in the following way. For defining this electric field, we can use the Gauss law in electrostatics, or from the elementary electrostatics, we can just derive it independently. Both are possible. So first of all, we'll try to derive a relation for this. And I am directly giving you right now what is the electric field here. Before that, let me also tell you that this is a positively charged plate. So there are four. Of course, here also I'll draw the same. And here an equal and negative charge. This is, see, these negatives or positives are on the surface of the metal. So please make it a point that the electric field inside any metal under any circumstances it is zero. Only electric field exists on the surface, but inside the metal always the electric field is zero. So both, whether it is positive charge or negative charge. So here this is plus q units of charge. This is what I am calling as q free, plus q free. Equally on this plate it is going to be minus q free, right? So we define a parameter, surface charge density. This surface charge density sigma I am denoting as sigma free. It is equivalent to charge, which is q free divided by area. Area is nothing but A. As we know, this is the plate area. So if the area is A and the total charge on this area A is q free, so this is what you call as sigma free, right? So the electric field in the middle point anywhere, it need not be exactly midpoint, it can be here or there anywhere. So the electric field E is given by E, of course I denote it as E vacuum because there is no medium in the middle, it's an empty space, there is no dielectric. So E vacuum is defined as sigma by epsilon naught into n cap. Of course, I use the word sigma free. So the sigma free divided by epsilon naught gives the E vacuum here, which we will derive using the Gauss law in electrostatics, which I will do it in a moment. And also we can define the D in this case as D is equal to sigma free, that's all, into n cap. There is no epsilon naught. So in both cases, D and E are related through this epsilon naught. So here you can see, and directly you can write this as epsilon naught E vacuum. And remember, this holds only for vacuum. If you are using a medium, then this relation doesn't hold. So it is applicable only to vacuum. So D equal to epsilon 0 E vacuum. This is always valid. So please write these notations. These are the important ones. D is equal to this and E is equal to this. These are the two uh, relations which we are going to use here. I'm going to erase this. Please pause the video, and if you want, you can copy this. I'm erasing. Okay, now I'm going to use the Gauss law in electrostatics. Gauss law in electrostatics states that the total electric flux through any closed surface, through any closed surface enclosing a charge of Q net is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times Q net. So mathematically speaking, the flux phi E, electric flux, is given by Q net divided by epsilon naught. And how do we write this phi E, electric flux? We know phi equal to E into area, electric field times area, that is the electric flux. Or in other words, we define this flux with the relation the number of electric lines of force that pass through unit area of a given surface is what we call as electric flux. So using that, I can write this in integral form as E dot dA. Here dA is the area. In some textbooks one may find ds also. dA or ds are actually surface elements. Both are equal. As it is a closed surface, this is surface. And remember, this integral is a double integral. Though we write one, actually it is a double, two-dimensional. Area is two-dimensional because length into breadth is the area. So it is something like dx into dy. So though we are writing one line, it is actually surface integral. This is equivalent to q net divided by epsilon naught. This is one important corollary, one important law which is useful for deriving several things. Please keep this in mind. This is the Gauss law in electrostatics. This is another important law. I'll use this, and let me erase this. You pause the video and copy it. Now, the next article is electric field inside a capacitor. Electric field inside a parallel plate capacitor. So, once again, I'll use a set of parallel plates, each having area A separated by distance d. They have the charge of sigma free. This is the charge density. Charge density, of course, sigma free is going to be, as we know, it is Q free divided by area A, as the plate area is A. Plate area A, this is Q free. Of course, Q free you can write like this. I wrote some 4 pluses. So these 4 pluses here and equivalent minuses here on the other side also. So now we'll try to calculate the electric field inside the dielectric. It need not be at the middle, even it can be somewhere here. For that, let's construct a Gaussian surface. Gaussian surface. What is Gaussian surface? Of course, it is a pillbox. Gaussian pillbox. Pillbox means thin cylinder. How do I construct? Let me do it here. So I'm actually considering some kind of cylindrical area, a small box, something like a Vicks box or Amritanjan box, a smaller one. So this is a thin cylindrical area, and at this point I want to find out the electric field. So this is my Gaussian surface. So this Gaussian surface is used for evaluating the electric field inside. Now what Gauss law says? So Gauss law, just now we have learned, implies closed surface integral E dot ds or dA is equal to q net divided by epsilon naught. So if we apply this to here, we have to estimate the electric flux through this surface. So this is our surface. It is enclosing some charge. It is enclosing some flux. It is giving some flux. Earlier in this video, I have pointed out that inside a metal, always the electric field is zero. And if you want to calculate this electric flux, it is nothing but E dot dA for bases. Let me call this as base 1 of cylinder inside metal. This is first one. Similarly, the same for base 2 in between the plates, and third one, the same E dot dA on the lateral surface of the cylinder. So if we add all the three, that is going to give us the total electric flux, which is the left hand side contribution. So if you do this E dot dA for the base part inside the metal, as we know that inside E is zero, inside metal it is true always. So there is no contribution from this side, it is gone, zero. And if you look at this lateral surfaces, if you draw a cylinder like this, on lateral surface, as we have charges somewhere here like this on the plate, of course inside, it's actually inside, these pluses are inside here. So the electric field will be something like this. And if you take this lateral surfaces, that is if you take a smaller aerial element here on lateral surface, it is going to be in this direction. This is n cap. And if this is the electric field, and if this is the n cap, the angle between E and this is 90 degree. So after all, E dot dA is nothing but E dA cos theta. In this case, cos 90, of course, cos 90 is 0. So even for this third part, the total electric flux becomes 0. We don't have to evaluate. So whatever that is left over is only from the second part. I will erase this. Please pause the video and copy it. So the electric flux from this surface, if you assume that electric field as E here, so E, and if the area is some A, I'm using small a, so E into A, as A is in this direction, even E is also in the same direction. So both of them are parallel, and hence it is cos 0 if you take the dot product. This is the total flux phi E for this Gaussian surface. So it is simply EA, which is equivalent to Q net by epsilon naught. In this case, Q net, the net charge inside the box is only the circular patch on this metal plate. If you imagine the plate this way, the circular patch of area A contains some charge, this charge. And what is the charge? Entire plate is having Q free, and the surface charge density is sigma free. Sigma is nothing but charge by area. And if you multiply this sigma with this small a, it is going to give you the charge contained here. So therefore, it is nothing but sigma free multiplied by a. This is the Q net. Therefore, Gauss law says that EA is equal to Q net by epsilon naught. This is the left hand side which I am writing here, and this is the right hand side which is Q net, which is sigma free times A divided by epsilon naught. Cancelling out A on both sides, we are left with E. E, of course, it is I am calling it as E vacuum. Why E vacuum? Because there is empty space, there is no medium. So E vacuum is sigma free by epsilon naught. This is what I have mentioned earlier. Of course, the direction of this, if you call it as a vector, so E vacuum in the case of parallel plate capacitor is going to be just sigma free by epsilon naught multiplied by n cap. What is n cap? At this point, you construct a unit normal. So that is going to be the direction of n cap. So at this point, from the positive plate, the electric field will be acting this way. And if you calculate the same thing from here, due to negative plate also, you get the electric field acting in the same direction. So you will get the same answer, no matter whether you take this plate or this plate. So this is the E vacuum derivation. We have already seen this expression, but we have tried to derive this. As we know E, we can simply calculate the D. After all, epsilon 0 E vacuum is nothing but the D. So in this case, the D is going to be epsilon 0 E vacuum, which is nothing but sigma free into n cap. So basically, the D, the electric flux density, is the surface charge density in vector form for any given plate. Okay, so I repeat, the D, electric flux density for any plate, is just the sigma free, the surface charge density, times the unit vector drawn to this particular plate. That is the D, and this is the E. And D and E vacuum are related through D is equal to epsilon 0 E vacuum. Please remember, it is E vacuum, but not E medium, which will come in a moment. I'll pause the video. I'm erasing it, and I'll go to the next one, which is the electric field inside the same parallel plate capacitor, not with vacuum, but with a medium. So that is what we are going to call as DEP relation. That is the next article. Pausing the video, pause the video. I'm going to erase it. Okay, the next article is DEP relation. What is this P, you may ask? This P, we will have the expression while deriving it. So later we will define P. So far you know the D and E. P will come later. So as usual, derive the same, consider the same parallel plate capacitor with plate area A having a separation of D, just like the same one. So here you have the same positive charges. I'm using 5 charges here. So similarly here I will have 5 charges. I'm intentionally drawing inside. Don't think that the charges are inside. Actually charges will be on the outer surface. And similarly here I have 5 negative charges. Similarly here 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. This is the negative plate. Now instead of considering empty space, let us suppose that we have filled this region with a solid dielectric. So suppose that this is a solid dielectric. We also consider a dielectric constant for this, which I will introduce later. So some solid dielectric is filled over here in the gap, within the gap. It's an insulator, electrical insulator. Now, with this dielectric, we are interested in calculating the electric field at one particular point. Just like whatever we did with the vacuum capacitor, we are going to do the same thing here. So once again, we consider the same Gaussian surface, a thin pill, a small pillbox, and we are going to consider some kind of a thin cylinder. Of course, you may call the point here. So at this point, I am once again interested in calculating the electric field. But there is a phenomena called dielectric polarization. Let me explain what happens here. If you consider an atom, this is the neutral atom, and if you don't apply any electric field, it will be in spherical shape. The moment when you apply electric field, this atom is going to become something like this, a smaller oval shape. This is an exaggeration. Atom won't take an ellipsoidal shape, but just as an exaggeration, I'm saying like that. So this is the center nucleus. So nucleus will remain here, whereas there will be another point. This is the negative, and this is the positive. So what I mean here is the electric field separates the positive and negative charge centers. So upon the application of electric field, if this is the atom with the Z atomic number, then there will be plus ZE inside nucleus, which are the protons, and the remaining minus ZE is the spherical electron cloud. Why I am calling spherical electron cloud is because electrons will be just revolving here around the positive nucleus. So we can't say where the exact location of the electron exists. So we can imagine that this entire cloud has the center here. So both positive nucleus and the negative electron cloud have same centers before the application of electric field. But after the application of electric field, as we know that the force on any charge is equal to F equal to QE. So because of the application of electric field E, the charge gets some force. So as this is the negative charge, which is minus ZE, so this force, of course, it is going to be minus ZE times E, which clearly shows that this force is exactly opposite to the electric field. Electric field is this way because there is a minus sign. So negative electric cloud will experience a force on this side, whereas the positive nucleus will have a force this side. So we are going to have some kind of tug of war between positive nucleus and negative electron cloud center, and it takes a little oval shape. This is what we call as polarization, dielectric polarization. So because of this dielectric polarization, what happens there inside is, just I am redrawing the same dielectric. So if you can imagine the dielectric to be composed of some spherical atoms, these spheres, before the application of electric field, these are spheres. Now after the application of electric field, we are going to get some kind of oval shape here. Actually, I am drawing two layer structure, but there are several infinitely many layers of atoms. So these identical atoms will have, if I have applied electric field here, this is going to be negatively charged side, and this is going to be positively charged side. So it is actually inducing some dipoles. As a result, we are getting a new field that is what we call as P, polarization. This is another vector. Polarization. You can see always the direction of field is from positive to negative. So these are positive charges. So electric field due to this induced dipoles will be in this direction. So P will be this way, E will be this way. So this applied E is going to cause some dipoles. It's going to induce some dipoles inside the dielectric. So the process of induction of dipoles inside the dielectric, neutral dielectric, is what we call as dielectric polarization. This is a vector P, which we'll use which we'll use here. So what am I going to do is, as there are some positive charges, I'm going to get, this is what I'm calling as a sigma free. Sigma free is the uh, surface charge density due to free charges or capacitor plates. Surface charge density due to charges on plate, metal plate. Now I'll define another parameter, sigma induced, which is nothing but the induced surface charge density or dielectric. This is also mathematically equivalent to magnitude of P. So induced surface charge density is sometimes referred as the polarization vector. Of course, this is not a vector, so the magnitude of this is equivalent to this. So if at all we want to define the polarization vector P, it is the induced surface charge per unit area of the given dielectric. This is one definition. I repeat, the induced surface charge per unit area of the dielectric is what you call as dielectric polarization, P. Okay, let me pause. I'm going to erase this portion. Okay, so induced surface charges. So this dielectric is going to get some induced charges here. As this is positive, obviously it is going to get some negative charges here. See, I have intentionally drawn only four negatives to show that this is a positive charge 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So definitely this charge will be more and this charge will be less. So here an equivalent charge, this is positive, 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 positive. So four charges here, four charges here, electrically neutral, right? So this is what we are calling as sigma induced and sigma free. Let me recapitulate. Sigma free is actually Q free by total area, and sigma induced is Q induced by the same area. We suppose that the dielectric is filling the same plate area. So the area of the plates and the area of the dielectric is the same. Okay, now we can apply the same Gauss law. So Gauss law implies we know that V dot dA, the total surface integral, is Q net divided by epsilon naught. As we have already argued in earlier case that the electric field from this side is zero because it's inside the metal, and the electric field from the lateral sides is also zero. So the total electric flux comes only from this surface. If you call this as surface S, if you call this as L, then L and lateral surfaces. So flux from surface L is zero because inside metal, and phi from lateral surface of cylinder is also 0 because lateral area, the E dot dA will be E dA cos 90 in this case, right? So it is 0. So there is no contribution from the lateral sides and the base inside the metal. Only this side survives. So if you take that, it is E into A cos 0, where A is the area. So this area cos 0 is equal to Q net divided by epsilon naught. And in this case, the Q net, see earlier with the empty space, we took only this surface area of the metal. Only this has this positive charges. That was sigma free. Now, in addition to that, we have another charge induced, that is sigma induced. And clearly, this is positive and this is negative. So this Q net is nothing but sigma free minus sigma induced. As we want charge but not the charge density, we have to multiply by the area because this is surface charge density. So surface charge per unit area, and when you multiply by area A of this base, that gives you the net charge inside, of course divided by epsilon naught. As it is just EA equivalent to sigma free minus sigma induced times A by epsilon naught, we can cancel out the A, and the E, which I am calling as E medium, is equivalent to sigma free by epsilon naught. What do you call this sigma free by epsilon naught? Please recall sigma free is nothing but D. Of course, we can write sigma free is vector D, the magnitude of it, and sigma induced. Just now we have defined the sigma induced is nothing but vector P. So this is nothing but sigma free is D, and this is nothing but P, of course, by epsilon naught. If you pull this epsilon naught to the left hand side, it is epsilon 0 E medium, and if you bring the P also to the left hand side, is equal to D. By putting vector signs on all of them, this becomes a vector equation and this is so-called DEP relation. Okay, I'm pausing the pause the video and copy this. This can be further extended to derive a dielectric constant. Let me derive the dielectric constant also. I will erase this portion, I'll use this result. What is dielectric constant? I'm going to derive it here. See, I will use this portion and or I use directly this. So E medium is equal to sigma free, or I'll drop this, just I'll call it as E, it is only E medium, is equal to sigma free by epsilon naught minus sigma induced by epsilon naught. This we know that sigma free is nothing but Q free by A epsilon naught, and sigma induced is once again Q induced by A epsilon naught. Generally, this free charge will induce some induced charge Q. Usually it is lesser compared to this, and generally it will induce a charge, a fraction of charge. Let us say if this is 100 units, it may induce a 10% charge, it may induce a 30% charge. So some fraction of this, definitely less than this, will be induced here. So what we can say is Q induced, I will call this as some fraction of Q free. So Q free is the total charge. It may induce some fraction. I'll call this as beta. It is the fraction. So definitely beta is less than 1, right? So with this, what I can do is E is equal to 1 by A epsilon naught, and of course this is E medium. As I mentioned earlier, it is E medium, and this will be what E induced. So in place of Q free, I'll write Q free. In place of Q induced, I'll write beta times of uh, I'm sorry, I have made a wrong thing. Sorry, a small fraction of it. So beta is less than 1. So what I can say is uh, Q induced is equal to beta times Q free. There was a mistake. Please make a correction. So Q induced is beta times Q free, and hence you can substitute it here by writing Q free minus, in place of sigma induced, I can write beta times of Q free. Maybe 10% of charge, let us say. In that case, it is 0.1 Q free. So 1 minus 0.1, it is 0.9, right? As an example. So what I can do is Q free divided by A epsilon naught into 1 minus beta. You recall this Q free by A epsilon naught is what we called as E vacuum. In absence of the dielectric, we got this expression Q free by A epsilon naught, or in other words, sigma free by epsilon naught, right? This is this. Now we'll call this entire term as 1 by epsilon r, where epsilon r is what you call as dielectric constant, right? So by putting that, I can rewrite this expression. I'm going to erase this portion. If at all you need, please pause it. Okay, so this epsilon r is 1 by 1 minus beta. This is what you call as dielectric constant of medium. So this dielectric constant, if you substitute, your E medium will be, E medium is nothing but Q free by A epsilon naught, which is E vacuum, times this 1 minus beta is epsilon 1 by epsilon naught. So this is this. So clearly this expression shows that as we know, beta is less than 1. So 1 minus something less than 1. So this can be always greater than or equal to 1. This can never be less than 1. So this dielectric constant clearly shows that it is greater than 1 means after the insertion of a medium, the electric field here is reduces compared to the vacuum case. So in vacuum case, you get the maximum electric field, but in the presence of this dielectric, the net electric field actually reduces by a fraction of this. This is one important relation which you can remember. So this is the definition of dielectric constant, and we can further proceed by defining another parameter called dielectric susceptibility. So recall DEP relation. So DEP relation says D is equal to epsilon 0 E, of course E is E medium, plus P is the polarization vector. In scalar form also you can take, as we know E medium is nothing but E vacuum by ER, so wherever you get this you can safely replace it. Also we know that D is equal to E vacuum by epsilon naught. In place of D you can write E vacuum by epsilon naught. Okay. Now I'll take it in scalar form and I'll also make some manipulations. So I'll write this as D is equal to epsilon 0 E medium, I am writing in scalar form, times 1 plus P divided by epsilon 0 E medium. Here I define this dimensionless quantity as chi E, electric susceptibility. This is a dimensionless quantity. It's a tensor actually. So this is P by epsilon naught E medium. This is a dimensionless quantity, electric susceptibility. So by replacing this here, what we can do is D is equal to epsilon 0 E medium into 1 plus chi. Of course, you can add chi E. Why I am using the subscript E is because there is another chi which is in magnetism. There you call it as magnetic susceptibility. I am going to erase this portion. Please pause the video and copy it. Okay, now D, E are obtained. We know that D is equal to, in terms of E vacuum, it is E vacuum divided by epsilon 0. Sorry. E vacuum is equal to D by epsilon 0. You can recall D is after all Q by 4 pi r square and E is Q by 4 pi epsilon 0 r square. This is the difference. Please remember. Now E vacuum is equal to D by epsilon naught. Also we know that E vacuum is nothing but epsilon r into E medium. Just we can put it here. So in place of E vacuum I can write epsilon r into E medium is equal to D by epsilon naught. So in place of D, I can write epsilon 0 epsilon r, D is equal to epsilon 0 epsilon r times E medium. Please observe, D is not always equivalent to epsilon 0 into E vacuum, E. That's why we have to take care of this E vacuum and E medium. So in case of medium, D is not directly equal to epsilon 0 E vacuum, but it is epsilon 0 epsilon r times E medium. Right? There is a difference. That's why you have to remember the distinction. Now if you plug in here, what we are going to get is, so epsilon 0 epsilon r E medium is equal to epsilon 0 E medium into 1 plus chi epsilon. So we can cancel out this. We are left with epsilon r is equal to 1 plus susceptibility. This is another useful relation. So this is the relation between the electric constant and electric susceptibility. I will talk more about this electric polarizations. Different types of polarizations are there. I will talk more about them in the next class. Thank you.